Am I live? I'm going to be watching myself. It says it's waiting. Ah, something's happening. Aha! Okay. Bit of a delay, but that's cool. So, thanks for joining me, everyone. Where is that number? All 7 of you. Hello. Okay, so you probably know how streaming works, but there's a little chat box down here that you can ask little questions, and I'm sure we're going to be waiting for renders and stuff later on, so feel free to ask some questions. Anyway, so the point of the stream is to open the first vault. So the idea behind these vaults was to, other than making a few goals on Patreon to work towards, were to make it a little bit less unpleasant for people who had previously bought my HDRIs. Because, I mean, as you can imagine, if you buy something and then you see it go on sale the next day, you're a little upset. And it's much worse if you see it suddenly, it's for free for everyone and you've just wasted your money. So what I wanted to do is put all of the old HDRIs that I had for sale away into these 3 vaults. And then slowly, as the income, the earnings, and the donations on Patreon grows, then those 3 vaults get unlocked. So, to my surprise, the first vault was unlocked pretty quickly. I think in the first 2 days, maybe something like that. So that was at $500, and it's gonna add 20 new HDRIs to the site for free for everyone to download. The question is which 20, because I have. Let us find my list. I have 140 HDRIs waiting to be added. I think it's 140. 120. So these are all the HDRIs that I used to sell. And what I did is I put them in different bundles, like grouped them together in similar things like skies and environments and interiors and things like that, just so that people who wanted to buy, interiors, they would get a whole bunch of them. So there are 12 bundles, interiors, environments, skies, and a couple of specific things like the Drakensberg roads, and this one particular bundle, the Chiara skies, where it's basically the same HDRI taken in the same place. Sorry. The same HDRI taken in the same place at 9 different times of day, like sunrise, sunset, middle of the day, that sort of thing. So the stream is all about selecting which of these HDRIs gets put in the first vault. And I thought it would be a good idea to make this like an open process, so nobody's wondering like why and how these were selected. Just for fun, basically. I thought it would be a good idea to stream this. I've never done this before, so forgive me if it's completely unwatchable. If you don't like watching people code, this may be a little bit boring at first, because I'm basically just going to write a Python script that's going to pick the random HDRIs out of the random bundles until we've got 20 of them. So, first things first, we've got to make a list of HDRIs. A list of bundles, actually. So, where's that window? There we go. So our first bundle is the interiors. 01. And there's 12 of them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I think. Yeah. Okay, interiors 01, environments 01, skies 01, skies 02. Let me just quickly check the chat in case there's some horrible issue. Nope. Good. Okay, so skies 02. Then we have Drakensberg. I think that's an ERG. I always get confused between Berg with an ERG and a URG. I'm not quite sure what the difference is. I know one of them means mountains and the other one means town or something. I'm not sure if that's Afrikaans or German or some other language. Environments 02. Skies 03. Interiors 02. Nearly there, sort of. I haven't really rehearsed this, so I'm pretty sure we're going to run into some errors and unexpected things. Why did I run out? Did I miss one? Interiors, environments, skies, Drakensberg, roads, environments. Environments 2, skies 3, interiors 2, urban 1. Oh, I missed the first urban one. There we go. Okay, so these are our bundles. So now we need to, the script is going to select a random bundle 8 times. So basically there's 20 HDRIs and 12 bundles. So we're going to first go through all the bundles, I guess in order, it doesn't really matter, and then pick a random HDRI from each one. I'll just generate a random number. I'm not going to type up all these names, and then that'll correspond to the number in the list. And once we've got the first 12, one from each bundle, then I'm just going to pick a random one of these 8 more times and get a second random one out of 8 of those bundles to make 20. So we're going to need to import random, and then let us say for x in range 8, print random dot choice, I think it is, bundles. Actually, we don't need the random bundles yet. We want to go through them sequentially. So, for, how do I do this? Man, Python, I forget stuff so quickly. Especially live streaming. A little bit nerve-wracking. So, excuse me while I Google the most basic thing. Looping through a list. Yes, that's right. So for b in bundles. So now the random number, we'll just call it r, is equal to random dot, and then I did check this yesterday, but I'll double check. Random number in range. Random dot random. Actually, it's not random dot random. It's random dot rand range. There we go. And then I remember it'll be 10 plus 1. So it's a random number between 1 and 10. Because there's 10 HDRIs in each bundle, except for the Chiara one, but we'll ignore that. So R will be our random number, and then we will print B and the number. And this will get us our first 12 HDRIs. There we go. So let's make another. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so this is the first selection of 12 HDRIs. For Interiors 01, it is number 2. Number 2 in the list is Lookout, which is a nice little HDRI that I shot in the Pilansberg National Park, a little hired lookout that looks out over quite a big portion of the park. You can always see lots of elephant and rhino and stuff in the distance. It's a nice place. Then, the second one is Environment 01, and it is the first one, which is Stream. This guy's got a sun in it. It's actually from Delta Park, where I've shot quite a few HDRIs. It's quite close to my house. And then we have number 3, which is going to be Skies 01, of course, and it is also number 1, Rooftop Night. That's a nice one. Number 4, Skies 02 is number 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lenong 1. This is actually pretty close to the location of the lookout over here. It was probably shot on the same day. I can't check that now, but anyway. Okay, so after that we have the Drakensberg. Drakensberg is also number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Cayley Lookout. Not much to say about that one. It's also kind of a lookout over a nice little mountain range with the dam over there. That is the Bell Park Dam. I've shot a couple HDRIs there. They're probably in the same bundle. Yeah, there's one. Okay, Cayley Lookout is number 5. Then number 6 is Rhodes. Rhodes is number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Red Hills Strait. That's a nice one. Nice road one with full sunlight and a bunch of backplates, but those won't be released yet until the goal is met on Patreon, I think, anyway. Haven't fully decided about that yet. Number 7. Okay, so after the roads is the environments, 02, and that is number 9. Well, that'll be the second from the last, which is Signal Hill Sunrise. That's a cool one too. This one was shot in Cape Town on the Signal Hill, as it is called, which is, let me see if I can bring it up. Signal Hill Sunrise. I'll just open the 8K. I quite like this one, because it was a real mission to stitch, actually. There were a bunch of people everywhere and cars, and it took forever to clone everybody out. You can still see some seams if you look closely, and a bunch of cars that I couldn't get rid of without it looking terrible. So this is Cape Town. You can see the stadium there, waterfront, nice place. And there's of course Table Mountain early in the morning. This was at, yeah, sunrise. This was really early in the morning. I think it was winter time. Okay, then it wouldn't have been that early. Anyway, Signal Hill Sunrise. So then, that was in environment, was it? Yeah. So Skies 03 is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, the sky is on fire. Yep. This is also one of my favorite ones. It was completely unplanned and unexpected and just pretty awesome. We stood there for a good 20 minutes just repeatedly taking HDRIs, me and Rico Cilias. He was doing the backplates and we just stood there, and every time I took an HDRI I would look up and the sky would be even more cool and interesting and on fire, so we'd do another one. I think I shot like 3 HDRIs in a row, and then I had to figure out like which photos I could keep for the same HDRI, because I forgot to do like the ground part at the end, or the sky changed so fast that the lighting at the bottom of the image was quite different from at the top. It happens. But it turned out really well. Then the next one is Interiors 02, which is, again, number 9. Second from the bottom, the Vulture Hide. This guy is also in the Drakensberg, very close to the Chiara Lodge place where all those 9 HDRIs at different times of day were taken. And it's sort of a mini national park that you can drive around, and then there's this vulture hide where you can come and look at a bunch of carcasses and vultures feeding on dead, I don't know, cows probably, and occasionally a jackal or a bunch of other birds. I don't think we saw any vultures when we came here, but it's a nice view anyway. So number 10 will be Interiors. Or did I? Oh, I just did Interiors. Okay. Number 10 is Urban one, I think. Yes. Urban one is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a lot of 6s. Concert house. This was in Berlin. I was just walking randomly one morning and I found this big building and I thought, why not? It's pretty cool. A bunch of tourists around, but I think I managed to clone most of them out. Concert house, number 11, Chiara Skies. Number 2, okay, we get the sunrise one, that's pretty cool. Good thing it's not a boring mid-morning or a noon or something. Sunrise. This was I mentioned just now, it's on top of a mountain, or a little hill, actually, in that same national park area as the vulture hide. And me and my dad came here for about a week, and we climbed up this mountain hill a couple times over a few days and shot 9 HDRIs from the same spot. It was pretty tiring. I had to hike up and down in the middle of the night to get there on time. But it was cool. I enjoyed it. I'll definitely do something like that again if I can find a location as nice as this. So number 12 is the Urban 2 bundle, and that is number 1. Modern buildings. Also Berlin. Very cool place. I think this is some government building. I don't know. I'm not sure what river this is. I'm tempted to say the Rhine because that's the only river I know in Germany, but it could be anything. So that is our first 12 HDRIs that we have. Now we need to get the remaining 8, and how I'm going to do that is basically the same thing, except I'm also going to select a random bundle. So instead of looping through the bundles, we're going to loop through, or we're just going to get 8, and then we'll say print a random, we need a random number again as well. We'll print a random choice out of bundles. I think that's the correct syntax. We'll find out, I suppose. And then get a random number, so we'll print that. And then let's just make our lives a bit more neat. I think this will work. Let's find out. Yes. Okay. So, of the remaining 8, the first one is from the Drakensberg bundle, and it is number 2. Don't tell me we already had that one. Nope. Cliffside. That's a fun one. I mean, fun for me. It's probably not that interesting for everyone else. This one has the highest dynamic range of any HDRI I've ever shot. I think it is 27 or 28 EVs, and that's just because obviously the sun is ridiculously bright, and it's a clear day, and also because these shadows of the trees here are really, really, really dark. So I had to go like all out on dynamic range and just capture everything. So this is a super contrasty one, which is fun. So just checking the chat again. Hey, there's people, 11 people. Hello. Cool. Interiors 01 is listed twice. Is it really? That's not good. You're right. Why is it listed twice? Interesting. Does that mean, oh, there's 13 now. And how did I get 12? I don't know. Tough. We'll just have to live with that. So, okay, where were we? We did Drakensberg number 2, which is the cliffside one. Super fun one to shoot and stitch. Maybe not fun, maybe just interesting. It was kind of fun. As fun as any of the others. Then we have Interiors 01, again, number 8. Where is the Interiors? There it is. Number 8 will be third from the bottom, I think. 10, 9, 8. Lapa. Okay. This is actually the second time. Well, I shot the Lapa one in the past. In fact, let's find it. The Lapa, I think, was not the first HDRI I ever shot, but maybe the second one. And it was all janky and full of seams and all sorts of stuff. I didn't have a panoramic head. I didn't really know what I was doing. And it was mostly just a test, I suppose, but that was back in the beginning, along with all these old other ones. These are also old. Parking lot. Here it is. Yeah, the first time I wrote this, how to create your own HDR environment images, I shot the Lapa. It's a place in my garden that we use for gatherings, parties and such. That was fun. And then I shot it again because this one's crap. So, that's fitting, I suppose. Where were we? This one. Urban one, number 7, if we didn't have that already. If we did have it already, then I guess I'll just take the one after it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Koenigsalley. I'm butchering these pronunciations, I'm sure. The King's Alley? Road? River? I don't know. Something to do with the king, I know that much. Then again, Urban 09. Urban 01. The 9th one. The 9th one will be between... Oh wait, this is Urban 2. Never mind. Urban 1, the 7th one, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a fun one too. Hansaplatz. This was kind of dodgy. It was in Hamburg. I mean, it's not late at night, but you know, the sun's gone down. And I just strolled around away from the hostel for a bit and found this interesting square. And there were all sorts of interesting establishments on the corners and people hanging around and police cars and things. I'm used to it. I live in South Africa. So, Hansaplatz was number 7, I think. I can double check that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, okay, didn't make a mistake. Urban 1, number 9. Number 9 is the Paul Loeb House. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. That's the other side of that nice government building with the modern buildings. It's the other side of this building, right next to the Reichstag. Anyway, then we have Skies 01, number 10. Here's Skies 01, number 10 is the last one, Noga, also in the Pilansberg. Not sure when I shot this, but it was sunrise sometime a couple of years ago. Nice place. One of the few places inside the park that you can actually get out your car and not get eaten by lions. I mean, you probably wouldn't get eaten by lions, but, you know, they have rules. You can't get out your car and just wander around the bushveld. You'll be mauled by elephants, no doubt. But then they have a few places like here where you can get out and look at a nice view or something. Always a good opportunity for HDRIs. Then, number 18. Am I running out of numbers? If that's 18, 19, 20. No, that's correct. Okay. Whew. Number 18, Drakensberg. Number 2, Cliffside. Okay, we've already had that, so I'm going to go with the one after it, which is the Bell Park Pier. We have had that one, hey? Yeah, we just had that earlier. Bell Park Pier. That's not how you spell pier. And this one, I mentioned earlier, the Bell Park. The lookout one is just up there. Our first one, lookout, was somewhere way at the top of the hill there. And this is a pier jutting out into the lake dam. I think it's a dam. Just after sunset. So, number 20 is Interiors 01 again, because I probably duplicated it. And number 1, which is Cabin. This was also one of the very early ones I shot. In fact, it was part of the teaser bundle that I released, which I made to sort of gauge interest for doing something like HDRI Haven before I had decided to actually do this. And I released a teaser bundle of 5 HDRIs for something like $3 or $4. And this was one of them. It's a little cabin in a cruise ship. My family and I went on a holiday to Norway a while ago. That was really cool. And this was in the cruise ship. Cruise ships are pretty cool. I like them. Okay. Number 20. Interiors 2 this time. And number 2. There we go. Dabali. Hey. I'm going to be there in a week. Okay, not a week, maybe a week and a few days. This is the venue of the Blender conference. It is the upstairs part. So, it's pretty much where a lot of people gather and talk and discuss Blender and stuff. And just downstairs through the alleyway is where the conference room, the theater, and the whatever you call it, the place where they give presentations is. So this was fun. The lighting in here is super weird. It is, I mean, you can see it's pink, but like in person, you kind of make sense of it, but when you take photos, it's really, really strange. The white balance is just ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. But, you know, cool lighting. Why not? And that is our 20. We have 20 HDRIs. All of these will now be released to the public for free, CC0, on hdrhaven.com. It's going to take me a little while to put all of these on the website. There's a little bit involved in doing so, but over the next few days before I leave for Amsterdam next week, Wednesday, these will all be online. I hope. They should be. I've also got to stitch another 8 HDRIs, 8, 7, 6.5 HDRIs, because now the goal for me, where is it? Releasing a new HDRI, hang on, every 2 HDRIs every week was reached a couple days ago. So now every week 2 HDRIs will be released, probably Tuesday and Friday or Wednesday and Friday or something like that. I'm not going to pin myself down just yet. But those will be coming soon. If you're a patron of mine, thank you very much. You can go to the Trello board. All the instructions are on Patreon. You can see if you click posts, and then on the left click instructions, you can see instructions for getting rewards. And you can just click this link to go to the Trello board. And here is basically just where I keep track of stuff and get feedback from patrons. And this is my list of HDRIs I'm currently working on. These 8 will be released in the next couple of weeks, 2 per week, 4 weeks, and then I'll be back and able to stitch some more of them. So tomorrow, I'm releasing one that I shot just the other day, just last week, Moonless Golf. You may recall I shot one called Moonlit Golf. It was in the same place, if I can find it. I'm not sure where it is. But it was basically my first real attempt at shooting HDRIs at night. It's probably a sky. Here we go, Moonlit Golf. So this is on a golf course and just next to the Kruger Park, and there's a moon in it. This was actually the night of the super blood moon a couple of years ago, I guess. And I did an HDRI. It might not be the same night, actually. It might be the previous night, something like that. It was basically a full moon, or near enough, and you can see a couple stars in the sky, but nothing too fancy. And then the one I'm working on now, which is here, not quite finished yet. I'm struggling a little bit. This one has no moon at all. The moon was going to rise in an hour or two, so we can see a bunch of stars, which is pretty cool. I'm struggling a little bit because my camera and my lens combination is really not very good for nighttime stuff. There's a ton of noise everywhere. This is with noise reduction, like hectic noise reduction, more than I'm comfortable with. I'm probably butchering a bunch of stars here with the noise reduction, but it makes it really difficult to stitch because there's just noise everywhere, and the algorithm for finding control points struggles, and I have to manually add control points for basically every image. And then on the grass, like, there's just all the grass looks the same. It's a pain. Anyway, tangent. Where were we? These are the 20 HDRIs that I'll release this week, and the 8 that will be coming in the next few weeks. Oh, if you're on the early access reward, what is that? $5 a month, early access. Then you'll get access to these 8 HDRIs as soon as they're ready. Otherwise, they'll be released 2 every week for the next 4 weeks. So I have to stitch all of them before I leave next week. So that's kind of how it works. Now that we've decided 20 HDRIs, I thought I would show you the process of how I would get one of these HDRIs onto the website. These are already stitched, so I'm not going to cover like how to stitch an HDRI. If you're interested in that, I have how to make your own HDRI. I have a big, long article on how to make your own HDRI. And let me just check the comments. Nothing? Okay. So, yeah, if you're interested in trying to make your own HDRIs or just curious how they are shot, this is a big, long article that covers not just how to do it, but what HDRIs are and sort of some things to keep in mind and be aware of. Anyway, it's really long. But for now, that's just making an HDRI. Now I'm going to actually upload the HDRI to the website, and then we will see it on this page and all the other pages. Okay. Now, which one? Shall I pick one manually by hand, a nice one, or shall I just do a random number? These are all nice ones. I'm going to do a random number. I can't choose. I'm terrible at deciding things. Okay. We will just print random.rand range 1, 20 plus 1. 3. Rooftop night. Nah, let's do another one. 17. Noga. Okay. I'm basically choosing manually now. Signal Hill Sunrise. Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter. Let's go with modern buildings. Forget about random number generators. We're doing this the old-fashioned way. Okay, so the first step in uploading an HDRI is to upload the HDRI. And I guess the easiest way to do that is just to drag and drop on FileZilla, some FTP thing, but that takes forever. I think my ISP limits my upload speed on FTP to like 100 kilobits per file. It's really weird. We'll see. But instead, what I do is I store everything on Google Drive, and then I pull the files from Google Drive to the server. So we need to find modern buildings, copy that one too, should be 7 of them, yeah. We'll cut them and paste them into the offline access, and we also need the JPEG. What kind of JPEG is this? Okay, it's the meta. Oh, it's not going to be here. It is going to be in the old website. It should be the same size and everything. Yeah. So we'll just take this, oops, and paste it here. Okay, so now we have modern buildings, and now that should be uploading. No, it's not. It's already uploaded because I just moved it from the one Google Drive folder to the other. Let me just double check it is on Google Drive, because sometimes it doesn't sync very fast, especially if I'm streaming. I mean, I don't know that from experience, but I'm just wondering about it. I'm busy on the other screen, by the way, in case you're wondering why nothing is happening. So that was modern buildings. Okay, it's there. Excellent. So now, not that button. Now that we know it is on the server, on Google Drive, I can just say, hold on. Yeah. update HDRIs. I'm maybe not going to show you the console window for the server because who knows what it could be used for. Anyway, so it is just downloading. I use a thing called rclone, which is a derivative of rsync, which is a Linux thing for syncing stuff between servers and things. And this lets you sync between Google Drive, Dropbox, basically anything to your virtual private server or shared hosting or anything that you have shell access to. So that makes it very easy for me to keep everything on Google Drive, so it's already uploaded, and then when I want to publish it, I just tell the server to download it from Google Drive. And that works well, because for some reason, uploading things to the server directly through FTP or something is ridiculously slow, but uploading stuff to Google Drive is good. Uses the full bandwidth of my internet. So that is done. I guess we can double check by manually typing in the path, which will be hdriven.com/files/HDRIs/modern buildings 1k.hdr. Yes, okay, it works. So all the files are there, the files for the actual HDR files anyway. But that is not all. Now we need to, as you can see, for every single HDRI, like this one, we can close that guy, we have this preview image, which this may be a bad example. It's not the actual HDR image itself, it's a tone mapped version. It's basically, because the HDR image has such a high dynamic range stored in it, you can't actually show it all at once on the screen. So the tone mapping algorithm, let me actually find a better example. This one. The tone mapping algorithm will take the HDR, which looks like this, or maybe more like this, and then make it look pretty like that. It sort of makes the darkest parts brighter and the brightest parts darker so that you can see more detail in the light sources and the shadows and things. Anyway, so we have to generate this image, and we have to generate all the different exposure images like this one and this one and this one so that people can inspect what the dynamic range is, and then also the 360-degree preview. This thing is built with the open source platform plugin called Panellum, and it's basically a sort of subdivided cube map where as you zoom in, it loads a higher resolution image. So you're not like loading the full 16K HDRI at once. You're only loading what you're actually looking at, which is pretty cool. So we have to generate that. We have to render these sphere previews, and then we have to add it to the database with the dynamic range, the data was taken, when to publish it, which would just be today, and then categories and tags and stuff like that. So first step is to make all the preview images. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to do some rendering, which I don't know how that's going to affect the stream very much, but it's probably going to slow things down. Probably not as much as when I have to upload it. So basically I've written, I used to do all of this by hand, like opening up Blender and importing the HDR image and rendering the sphere previews and things, but when you have to do that 120 times, it gets old really, really quickly. So as you do when you have to do something over and over again, you write a script. So this script basically, it skipped it this time, but normally it will call Blender from the command line and use a separate Python script to import the HDR image into a scene, like the sphere scene, and then render that scene to a certain path based on the file name that you click on here. And now it's doing the tone mapping for this tone map preview image, and then that's going to get used for a whole bunch of different things as well, like all the thumbnails, like this thumbnail here. It's going to combine that, and it basically just automates a bunch of really repetitive, annoying things that I used to have to do by hand. So now it's finished tone mapping, and it's opening the tone mapped image into Photoshop. It's a 16K PNG, and PNG compression seems to take forever to compress. So you have to make sure you disable the compression completely. So it's an uncompressed PNG file, which means that it's a humongous file, but it actually saves a lot quicker because it doesn't have to go through the CPU process of calculating how to compress it. So what I do here, this is the tone mapped image. You can see that the shadows are a little bit brighter, and the sunlight on the building is not completely overexposed. That's basically the whole point of it, is just to make it look more like it looks in real life. And what I do here is just some processing to make it look nice, like sharpening and sometimes some color adjustments. Like in this case, I think I might do something like give it a little bit more contrast. I don't know. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's an already tone mapped image. It's impossible to represent the HDR file realistically, and people like to look at nice pictures, so I'm fine with making it look a little bit fake. Then we just need to merge everything and do the action. I think that's how you do it. So it does an unsharp mask with a very big radius to sort of increase the clarity, it's called in Lightroom, or structure in Instagram. It's basically like it highlights larger details. It makes big details, I mean big like structures in the image more pronounced. And then it does a smart sharpen, which is just a fancy sharpening thing that only sharpens the stuff that needs sharpening, like the corners, to make it look a little bit clearer. This is the sort of thing, like, I know it sounds like it's cheating and making it look nice and not look like the real HDRI, but when you actually use an HDRI in your renders, at the end you always do this sort of thing as well, sharpening and post-processing and things like that to make it look nice. So the goal is to make it look good, to give you an idea of what you could do with it, even if it's not completely true to the original HDR file. I did a survey a while ago and asked people if they cared more about having a perfectly realistic HDRI or if they wanted pretty HDRIs. And the consensus was that it had to be realistic, but not like boringly realistic. It should still look good. Like a little bit of hacking and faking the niceness of it is a good thing. So now it is saved. I think I saved it without compression. Yeah, otherwise it would still be going. Oh wait, there's a pop-up box. So here if I select smallest slow, which is the default, it would do the PNG compression and take ages, but instead I'll say no compression, and then it only takes a few ages, not like an eternity. While that's busy, I will check the chat, so if you guys have any questions, I will try to answer any of them. I'm just scrolling up and down. Berg equals mountain, Berg equals castle. Okay, it's probably the same in Afrikaans. In fact, it might not even be an Afrikaans thing. I mean, Afrikaans is pretty close to Dutch, which is pretty close to German, so it probably means the same thing, which is interesting. I always forget, is Johannesburg with a UR? I mean, I live in Johannesburg. Okay, it's with a UR. That's interesting. I guess that makes sense, because it's like a mountainy thing. Oh, except for ER is mountain, and UR is castle. That's why I always get confused, because it doesn't make any sense. So, hello. How many different shots did I have to shoot for... Sorry, I don't normally talk this much to myself in the middle of the night. How many different shots have you had to do on one spot to capture the dynamic range on the high UV one? So what I do to get these super high dynamic ranges is to, first of all, I do the whole HDRI without any filters or just with a weak ND filter, and then any really, really strong light sources like the sun or lamps, small LED lamps or fluorescent lamps and things like that, which are really tiny and really intense, I shoot that angle again and put on a stronger ND filter to make them really, really dark and make sure that I'm capturing the full dynamic range of the light source. It's a little bit complicated, especially to merge it back with the previous images, like the non-ND filter images. I definitely plan on making detailed video tutorials about this in future when I get back from the Blender conference, maybe even next year, I don't know. But I definitely want to make some video tutorials on how to make proper high quality HDRIs, and maybe then accept some contributions from other people to add their own HDRIs to HDRI Haven. But then it gets complicated with how I can compensate them for their additions, because if I'm basically earning $743 per month from generous donations, I mean, a lot of that goes to keeping the site alive, but I mean, it pays me as well for my effort, I guess. And then I have to sort of calculate what portion that is and share a piece of that with them, depending on. It's complicated. That's why I haven't done it yet. But also because I'm only going to accept the same standard of quality with full 16K resolution and always unclipped. So that's eventually we'll get there. Where was I? Tone mapping complete. Okay, Photoshop has successfully saved the PNG. We can get rid of it. And then we can press any key to continue. Did I do that already? There we go. So now it is using Panellum, which is a open source panorama viewer for the web. It's pretty cool. It even has these annotations and things, but I haven't used that. And this is what lets you sort of look around in the HDRI and get a better understanding of the 3D space. Because when you look at stuff from this point of view, it often looks like the space is bigger, as super wide angle lenses do, and this is about as wide angle a lens as you can get because it captures just 360 degrees. But then when you click on the 360 degree preview thing, suddenly you realize it's actually a really tiny little room. So it's useful to see what the space is actually like. So, this is a really good example of tone mapping. So as you can see, the inside of here is actually really dark, and the outside is basically completely blown out, and you'd have to go stop down 2 stops, 4 stops, 6 stops, 8 stops before you get to see the actual brightness of the sky outside, and by that time the inside is completely black. So that's why tone mapping allows you to see the detail in the brightness and the darkness at the same time. Yeah, so back to the questions. Dibali before Dibali, which was that HDRI I showed you. It was Urban Interiors, this one. The Dibali, was that before the Blender conference? Nope, it was during or in the middle of the Blender conference, the 28th of October, which was that the first day or the second day? Something like that. It was probably the Saturday at 8:41 in the evening. So right at the end of the Blender conference, the second day or something like that, when everybody was just hanging out and no talks were happening. I think I went and I fetched my camera stuff from the hostel and then walked back. Because the hostel is really close to the conference venue. It's really nice. The Stay OK Vondel Park one. Okay, my little script has finished doing its thing. We have generated the Panellum 360 degree preview. We have made previews. That is... what is that? I'm not sure what that is. I think that's probably the small versions of the tone map preview, like the thumbnails and things. Exposure preview, that is the different exposure previews here. And then the meta image is basically just the sticking this image and this image together so that when you share this page on social media, then it shows you, oh boy, it shows you, oh boy, oh there we go, it shows you, hang on, this is not the meta image. Maybe it is. Anyway, I thought it was putting those two images together, the tone mapped one and the spheres one, like the thumbnail. Anyway, so now that we've generated the images for the website, we have to upload those to the website. And how I do that is not entirely decided yet. I used to use Git to sort of commit the images and then pull them on the server, but Git is kind of fussy about large binary files or many binary files, so that takes forever. So what I normally end up doing, actually I don't normally end up doing anything at the moment. I don't really know how I'm going to do this. I guess I'll have to figure that out tomorrow when I start uploading the rest of these 20 HDRIs. So basically that script has generated a bunch of stuff, like all these different resolutions of the modern buildings, there we go. All the different resolutions of the tone map preview and all the thumbnails and all the 360-degree previews and the sphere renders like this one, stuff like that. And now we have to get these to the server. The main problem, I mean the issue, the thing that makes it tricky is that the Panellum, the 360-degree preview, how it works is it takes it subdivides, oh, hold on, we'll pause that, okay. It's like a subdivided cube map, and then each time you zoom in, it subdivides it even more. So you have the first level, which is just, you know, like a normal cube map, where you have the 6 faces, but this is really low resolution. It's just like a fallback, I guess, although that's whatever. Then when you zoom in a little more, it subdivides it even more, and now it has not just 6 tiles, but a bunch of tiles. And then you zoom in a little more, and suddenly it's got these tiles. And then when you zoom in all the way, now we have 726 JPEGs of various little portions of the HDRI. And this is a lot of files, so it takes a little while to upload. So what I'm going to do, what am I going to do? Let us find out. I think we might as well just do the FileZilla thing and do it with FTP. Which is a little slow because there's so many files, but I guess it's okay. Files. HDRI images. So we'll do the Panellum thing first, because that's always slow. Where's that? There we go. Panellum, and then we'll just drag the whole modern buildings folder into here. And it's not going to have to check for any conflicts or anything because it's a whole new folder. And while that's busy, well, I might as well just do the rest of them. So with these, I'm going to be lazy and just drag the whole folders and just get it to detect any conflicts and complain at me about them. So back to the chat. How do I do my tone maps? Good question. What program am I using? And do you have some setting configuration that works on every HDRI? So it took me a while to find something that works for every HDRI, because at the rate I make HDRIs now 2 every week, 100 per year, basically, it has to be as automated as possible so I can get things done quickly and not let the technical aspects of tone mapping or anything get in the way, and just let me focus and use as much time as I have on actually shooting and stitching and things that require actual work that aren't repetitive. So what I use is, let me find my script. It is a program called Luminance HDR. That's right. So Luminance HDR, I think it's an open source thing. It's basically a program meant for tone mapping HDRIs in different ways. It's got a bunch of different algorithms, like a bunch of them that do different things and make different looks. And it's a pretty advanced program. But the good thing about it is that it has a command line interface, which means I can call it from a script and do everything automatically. So I use an algorithm called Reinhardt 02, which I find is the most natural, because some of these HDR algorithms, they just make it look really weird. Maybe if we see some of these screenshots. I mean, you can just Google weird, that's not how you spell weird, HDR, and you'll see some freaky stuff. Like, look at that. That doesn't look like reality at all. That looks like an oil painting, if it will load. It just looks bad. So a lot of these algorithms, they look strange. So I found one called Reinhardt, which is the most natural and does a decent job of showing a fairly wide dynamic range in all cases. Most cases. What it does struggle with sometimes is colored light sources that are really bright. You can see it a bit in the window here outside, where the colors of the trees are getting a little bit strange compared to what they look like here. It's sort of very yellowy. But it's better than all the other options. So that is what I use. And it is nice because I can automate it. And yeah, there's no need for me to explain that command. I'm basically just calling the command line program, giving it a bunch of parameters like L, which is the input, L for input, the file name, and then T is the algorithm, O is at least for output, and that is the output file. Anyway, that's not very interesting. Then, oh, and I do tweak them individually. You saw me open that one in Photoshop earlier, just to make it look a little nicer. Then, does the tone mapping script get rendered in Blender? No, it doesn't, but the sphere previews do. And that is also automated and called in the script somewhere further up. Please excuse the horrible coding. The repetitiveness is awful, but this is something that it's one of those things that you just sort of build up slowly over the years, and then it just becomes a complete mess, and you're too lazy to rewrite the whole thing and make it neater because it just works. I mean, most of this... Oh, this is the old one. Huh. Yeah. The new one's a little bit cleaner for the new site. I've changed the paths and things. Anyway. Cool. No more questions, it seems. That is good, because this is... We're not going to need to overwrite anything. They're all the same. It's only new files that we're adding. So we'll just skip everything that already exists. Cool. Once we have uploaded all of these files, then we have to add it to the database. So we may as well do that now. The database is just a record, like a table, of every HDRI, and it contains all the info that we need. So, insert. This one is called Modern Buildings. For now, I just manually input this stuff, but at some point I will make a script or something that will do this automatically. I used to have one, but since I did the new website, that obviously changed. So a lot of these fields are unused, like the Vault one here. I thought maybe at some point I would just add everything to the database and then assign a vault to it or something, but that didn't really work. Categories. Okay, I have where is it? Categories. This guy can come to this desktop. A little helpful text file so I can remember what categories I use. Oh, come on. That works. Okay. Alright, so this one, modern buildings, is outdoor. It's kind of a corner case because it's outdoor, but it's under a roof. I guess it's outdoor. We'll call it outdoor. Not skies. It is urban. It is sort of sunset. We'll call it sunset. I put sunset and sunrise in the same category because, you know, if you search for sunrise, sunsets look the same as well. And then, oh, I need to look at it. I've forgotten what it looks like already. We will go to the meta. Yeah, this is what the meta is supposed to look like with the tone map preview and the spheres underneath. And modern buildings, it's over here. Not quite sure if I can show all of these windows at once. We'll try that. It's partly cloudy. It has medium contrast. I should probably come up with a sort of standard definition of what defines low contrast, medium contrast, and high contrast. But I haven't, so I just have to make something up every time. I guess it's okay. Is that medium contrast? There's like a little bit of shading on the sphere, but there's no real shadow. I could probably call this low contrast, and that would be more correct. But there's lots of reflections, like contrasty reflections. So I'm going to go for medium contrast. And natural light. So the point of these categories and the tags is, well, the categories, obviously, apart from just showing up down here, the categories are what is on, firstly, these sphere things, balls, circles. They what show up on the left here. So that, say I put it in the natural light category, then when you click on natural light over here, it's going to show up over here. And these are all the ones that have natural light in them. And a lot of them, okay, not a lot of them, some of them, sometimes, can be both natural light and artificial light, like this one, the hotel room, because it has lamps in the ceiling and a big blue window, so it's both. Anyway, back to here, natural light. Those are all the categories: outdoor, urban, sunrise, sunset, partly cloudy, medium contrast, natural light. There we go. The tags, they're just whatever, basically stuff that's in the HDRI. Maybe somebody wants a river, so we'll give a tag river. Maybe it's basically just to help people find it better. Say building, city, urban, concrete, modern. I don't know. I was thinking of opening up these tags to the public so that people can suggest tags for each HDRI, but I don't think people really do that. I just don't like doing this part because it's kind of random. Like glass. There's some glass in this HDRI. Is anybody going to search for glass? I don't know. Maybe you can suggest some tags in the chat. I have a helpful little list of stuff that I usually use, but I don't have anything suitable here. I guess we could say water. I should really code my website so that it has synonyms. Like if you look for water, it will find river as well, and if you look for city, it will find urban. But at the moment, it's really stupid, and it just does a basic query of what's contained in the tags here. Date taken. That is a good question. That'll be somewhere here. Modern buildings. Date taken 6th of November 2016. 2016. Is it a slash? Oh, shush. 2016. 11. Why are the arrows not working? 6. 4:48 p.m. 16:48. There we go. Coordinates, X and Y, GPS coordinates. I haven't used these yet, but I guess I might as well do that now, because at some point I will add the GPS coordinates and maybe a little map or something to the HDRI info, like at the bottom here. I don't know, just an idea. I know exactly where it was taken, so we can zoomy. Berlin. I think it was under here. Yeah, somewhere there. So then we can just copy paste the coordinates. There we go. EVs. How many EVs were captured in this one? 8. Not particularly high dynamic range, but that's as many as was needed to capture everything. So at the moment, I just mentioned the EVs that I actually captured, like the exposure brackets. But that doesn't take into account the dynamic range of the camera itself, which is normally about 12 EVs, and that varies depending on the camera and the ISO settings and things like that. So in future, I'm wanting to include those as well, and that's why I've got EVs captured and EVs full. White balance, I'm not actually using yet, but again, we might as well just include that. I keep in archive. All the HDRIs that I'm currently stitching have a lot of really large files that eats up hard drive space. So once I've stitched it and published it and I'm happy with it, that nothing's going to change, I dump it into this archive folder and then delete all the unnecessary stuff, which is basically everything except one set of exposure brackets. So we can pick this guy, go to the properties and find the white balance. Except there is no white balance. Alright, hold on. This is a little tool to examine once it loads. It's taking a while to open. It's basically a tool to examine all the metadata in a file, and then I should be able to find something that says what white balance was used. It's probably 5400K. That's sort of the daytime white balance that I use, but I want to check. Anyway, we'll ignore that for now. Download count is not used. Size, download count is used. I mean, it's to track the number of times people download the HDRI, but I obviously leave that on 0 to start with, and then the website increments it. It's not accurate anymore because of reasons, caching and stuff. It's The download count is only like half of what it should be. Anyway, that's not shown publicly anymore because it's completely wrong, but eventually once I fix this, I will show the download counts on the website again. So, size will be... I think we need another window. One buildings, 1K size. Oh, come on. 1.55 megabytes. The 2K size is 6 megabytes. The 4K size is 23 megabytes, core 24. I'm doing this manually now, but of course this is the perfect opportunity for a script to just look at the file and add the size to the database. 324. Okay. We'll just use one decimal place, that's fine. I should probably be consistent about that. Anyway, there we go. Oh, the EXIF thing is finally opened, so we can go find it in the archive. On buildings, HDRI. Okay, pick any random one of these, and then we should have something that says either white balance or temperature or warmth. White balance manual, that's not very helpful. This is weird. Surely that's stored in the file. White balance sunny. That's also not very helpful. Color temperature 2500. No ways. That's way too low. That's problematic. I guess it's a raw file, so it doesn't really have white balance in it. Oh well, maybe I'm not going to be able to show the white balance of the older HDRIs. I guess it will just stay at 0 then. So, once I click go and add this to the database, it will basically become live. And we will have the HDRI on the website. But obviously before we do that, we have to make sure that all the images are on the website. I think they are. The FTP thing is done by now. And we uploaded the files. And we checked that they were there. So, okay. Modern buildings. Go. One row inserted. So now it will appear on this page, but this page is actually cached. So it's using a slightly older version. What we can do to ignore the cache is just to add a random parameter at the end of the URL, and there it is, modern buildings. So if you go to the website now, you might not see this one. Actually, okay, we will do this the proper way. Step number 1 is to clear the cache. So that is not how you spell HDRI Haven. Then we say remove star.html. So that'll delete the local cache on my server, but that is not the only cache. We also have the Cloudflare cache, which is what saved my butt in the first few days when there was a lot of traffic. Basically, Cloudflare is a CDN, I guess, or a caching service. I'm not quite sure what the technical term is. Basically, whenever somebody visits the website for the first time, nothing happens. But the next time somebody in that area visits the same page, Cloudflare, instead of requesting the page from my website, it serves them a cached page, so it doesn't have to, basically, it doesn't even reach my website. My website doesn't even know that, or it probably does, but it doesn't have to handle that request. So if there's a lot of people visiting or downloading HDRIs at once, then my website is not really affected that much. I also use it, I cache HDR files for 2 days, 2 whole days, which means basically I don't really host the HDR files. If I go to the analytics, whatever, you can see that in the bandwidth over the last month, the orange line is the cached bandwidth, like what Cloudflare is handling, and the blue line is what my server is handling. So in the beginning, when I was still figuring things out, the blue line was big, and basically every day the server was handling like a whole terabyte of bandwidth, but now things have quieted down a bit, and the caching is working much better. So on this day, the 9th of October, whenever that was, there was pretty much just over a terabyte of bandwidth, but my server only had to handle about 300 gigs of that because the rest of it was cached. Anyway, that was a tangent. What I really wanted to do here is go and purge the cache for that page. So now if we visit this page, it'll take a couple seconds. There we go. Okay. Now we have our HDRI. And we can click on it, and it will show us all the pretty pictures, and we can download it. Yay! It works. Okay. So that is the first of the 20 volt HDRIs to be added to the website. I have another 19 to go. And once the second vault is released, unlocked, there will be another 40 of them. So this was the first vault, which had 20 HDRIs, as I mentioned. But the second vault has 40 more HDRIs, and that'll be unlocked when we reach $900 per month on Patreon, which is not that far away, as you can see. And that will be 40 more HDRIs, like I keep repeating myself, because it is 11:15 p.m., and I'm not usually awake at this time. But you know, time zones, if I did the stream in the middle of the day, like a normal person would, then it would be a bad time of day for people in America to watch. Anyway, I think that's basically it for this stream. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to cover. Yep, that is my checklist done. So, thanks everyone for joining me. Thanks for watching me babble on about HDRIs and all that sort of thing. I'm probably going to fall asleep if I carry on any longer, so thanks again for watching, and to those of you who support me on Patreon, I can't thank you enough. This is really a dream come true, basically. So thank you. It's all thanks to you. I'm okay. We've gotta stop this before it gets weird. How do I stop this? It's this window, isn't it? There we go. Okay. Good night, everyone, or good afternoon wherever you live, or good morning. What is the time? I shouldn't go this way. Time in Brisbane. Okay, 7 a.m. If you're in Brisbane watching at 7 a.m., which is extremely unlikely because there's only 10 of you watching now. Good morning, but to everyone else, good night or good afternoon, and I guess I will see you around. Oh, if you're going to the Blender conference, definitely say hello to me. That is not this weekend, the one after that. But if you're going to the Blender conference, you would know that already. So I'll stop talking now. Good night.